And joining us for more on Sarasota's surveillance camera system and how it is used in the Newtown community is Ruth Beltran, the Suncoast Answer of the Suncoast Answer Coalition, and retired Captain Jeff Carr, who oversaw the implementation of the cameras. And we also want to know, we did invite the chief tonight, and we regret that she was not available. Ruth, let me start with you and ask you, how did this conversation get out of hand the other night?
Well, what we noticed throughout the meeting is that the police department wanted to speak about cameras, but did not want to entertain our dispute as to how the Newtown community is really disproportionately targeted. And most of these cameras are located in the Newtown community. Right now, it's at least half of them that are located there, but we know that just as of last year, it was 81% of the cameras were located in Newtown. I actually brought you a very interesting map. This was done by the ACLU, which shows you the disproportion. So this is Sarasota. This is the neighborhood of Newtown right here, which just shows you 81% of the cameras located in just one neighborhood.
You know, Jeff, you helped implement this program. Is it true that at least at some point 80% of the cameras were in Newtown?
I think that what happened was when we first started this program, we modeled it after Newark, New Jersey's program with Cory Booker as a mayor there. And it was looked at, and I actually went up and visited Newark and visited a couple other areas that had these type of programs implemented. And they may have ended up with more in Newtown, but the point of the camera system when it was set up was that if you wanted us to put a camera up in your neighborhood or into your business district, you approached the police department. We entered into agreements. We didn't go out and seek people to come on board. We offered these to them. A lot of it was the Sarasota Housing Authority. A lot of the cameras that are up in that area are in the Housing Authority property.
And here is the million-dollar question, and we have you know, a good amount of time to talk about it tonight, is are the cameras there to catch members of the community breaking the law or doing some bad things, or watching what they do? Or is it, as that gentleman who was in Adam's story says, hey, we wanted these cameras here because there is crime around here, and when there is, we want the police to respond rapidly?
So let me give you 2 points about that. First of all, we know that the community did not have enough information or all the information about the cameras to make an informed decision. We know that the community and even people in the neighborhood association, as of when this meeting took place, were not aware that the majority of the cameras were disproportionately placed in Newtown. That's something that they found out through the meeting.
But are you saying that that gentleman who was just in Adam's story doesn't know what he's talking about in terms of wanting these cameras here so he could feel like he is safer? I
am saying that the community is not aware that they are being targeted, that the majority of the cameras are located in Newtown. Through multiple studies nationwide, it has been proven that surveillance cameras by police do not reduce crime, but it also has been proven that they do increase discriminatory policing because of the way that they are placed throughout black neighborhoods.
All right, let me give Jeff a chance to respond to that. You know, 2 questions. Do surveillance cameras like this reduce crime?
Yes, they do. If you take a look at Newark, New Jersey's program, they reduce crime in the 70 to 80% range of violent crimes in the neighborhoods the cameras were placed. Our first cameras were not placed in Newtown. They were placed there at the request of the Newtown residents and at the business association up there. Ours were placed first downtown, and they were the ones that sought it. And then also North Trail businessmen also sought that to help reduce the problem they had up in that area with prostitution. These are basically targeted cameras to reduce crime in neighborhoods and also make the neighborhood safer for the people that live there that are afraid to come out and go to the businesses and walk the streets that the drug dealers and people are on.
We have less than a minute left in this segment, but Ruth, I wanted to give you the last word here.
I'll tell you, Newtown is not a hub for crime. The fact that the allegation that cameras reduce crime is not true. It has been proven throughout studies that they do not reduce crime. Instead, they increase discriminatory policing. Black people, when they commit crimes, they are recorded. White people, when they commit crime, that's not the same thing that happens in their neighborhoods because their neighborhoods are not full of police cameras.
I see that we have a lot more to talk about, but why don't we just take a break? We have much more to discuss. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, we are discussing the surveillance cameras throughout the city of Sarasota. Around half of those are in the community of Newtown, and our guests tonight include Ruth Beltran of the Suncoast Answer Coalition and retired Captain Jeff Carr, who oversaw the implementation of the cameras in Sarasota. Welcome back, everyone. There are, boy, a lot of parts of this to really kind of unpack. Ruth, when we left off, you were questioning about whether or not this actually is an effective way of stopping crime. And so in the break, I was looking up what studies are out there. There was one in the Justice Quarterly, which shows that their analysis that surveillance systems were most effective in parking lots, where they resulted in a 51% decrease in crime. Systems in other public settings had some effect on crime, like 7% decrease in city centers and in public communities, public housing communities, but it says that the results were not statistically significant. So I guess, Captain, is there real evidence that this is a good way to prevent crime happening in neighborhoods, or the bottom line, does it just make residents feel better?
I think it's a little of both. You know, I think the residents feel safer if they know that they're, that when they're out in the public areas of their neighborhoods, especially when you take a look at, looking at parking lots and parks. I mean, you take a look at the park, Glossy Atkins Park, right at 301 and MLK there. That's had camera systems for years. It was upgraded when Newtown Redevelopment wanted to upgrade that and put the cameras right on MLK itself. A lot of the cameras up in Newtown, I'll reiterate, are basically in the Sarasota Housing Authority property, and these residents want them there, and so does the Housing Authority. They actually have their own monitoring station at the Housing Authority that they can go on, and they can control their own cameras. That was designed that way.
So, Ruth, if that's the case, and these cameras are looking at whether it's a public housing complex or any place else, and people are watching and seeing suspicious activity or drug dealing or anything like that, and they're able to alert police, isn't this a good thing?
It's not a good thing. This is targeting black communities. As we know, this is a trend that we see all throughout the country. Even the partnership with the Housing Authority is something that we can see throughout many cities. This placing of cameras in Housing Authority is really targeting people of color and poor people. Throughout Sarasota, the Sarasota Police Department does not have a partnership with private apartment complexes. They are not looking at people that live in regular apartment complexes. Instead, they focus those efforts in Housing Authority, where people of color reside, and also where there are a lot of poor people. It's really just monitoring of one community and leaving the rest of the city.
What about the people who live in that community who are being robbed or any kind of crime is taking place, and there is a camera that may result in a faster response by police? Isn't that a good thing?
Okay, let me reiterate. Newtown is not a hub for crime, first of all. The only reason why there is more data on crime in those communities is because this is the community that the police is over-policing. This is the community where all these cameras are, right? So we have crime also occurring in white communities, but they are not being caught because those communities are not over-policed, and there's no video to go back to look when a crime occurred. So this is targeting of the black community, and it's a trend that we see. It's no different than what's happening in all of the major cities. If we really want to reduce crime, let's look at things that actually reduce crime. So let's look at more police, more street lighting. That has been proven to reduce crime. Let's look at programs to help ex-offenders reintegrate into society, find stable housing, find employment. Those are things that have been proven to reduce crime.
Right. Well, we'll talk about that some more, but Jeff, let me give you the opportunity first to respond.
Well, I think that what she has to look at is that we were approached by these businesses, the Newtown Redevelopment, North Trail, downtown. And we partnered with these individuals at their request. If another neighborhood that felt that they were having a problem and wanted to have a surveillance camera in their park or at a certain intersection or location, the police department would not turn that down. We have the capability. They pay for this. We don't. We let them make sure that we have enough, they buy enough storage on our system. The camera belongs to them, and that we are just basically the custodians of the information that's stored from those cameras when it's recorded.
But obviously there is concern, at least in some areas among some people, that this is a way to basically target minority residents of the community, and as a result, arrests will be up, and the same kind of looking for drug deals or whatever in other white communities doesn't take place.
Well, I think what you got to take a look at is you take a look at the historic crime problems that were occurring in the Newtown area. I worked 28 years. I worked undercover for 7.5 years, worked in the community resource team in Newtown for 4 years. And this community, not being targeted by police, were targeted by drug dealers and drug users on a daily basis. And they were overrun by people that did not live in this community, but came to this community to buy their drugs. They came to this community to commit crimes.
So let's go ahead and speak about that, the disproportionate numbers, right? So black community makes up roughly 6% of the community in Sarasota. However, they account for 20% of all arrests, 28% of all drug-related arrests. This happens when we know that many studies, again, have shown nationwide that black people are not more prone to using drugs or selling drugs than white people are. It's just that we are only targeting black people, therefore they are being arrested. When it comes to youth, the black youth in Sarasota is only roughly 9% of all the youth in the entire county of Sarasota. However, they account for 33% of all arrests, 69% of all arrests for disorderly conduct. When you target a community, when you basically focus on a community, you are going to catch those people. There is no way to say that we are not targeting people based on race when the cameras are placed in the black neighborhood. You are looking at black people.
How do we reach a consensus about what to do here? Because at that community meeting the other night, it seemed to be, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 different factions. You had the police there, you had you there and other supporters, and you had other community residents who were supportive of the cameras, who want to
unaware of where the cameras are disproportionately placed in their community, so they have not been given enough information.
Even if they are disproportionately placed in their community, I will go back to the fact that the community leaders were the ones that requested the cameras.
But they do not know that they are being targeted. They do not know what the disproportion was. They just found out at this meeting.
How are they targeted? I want to understand the word targeted, because these cameras record and they are monitored at times. Sometimes they are basically put on an automatic pan to record a certain location based on activity in that area. Let's put the camera there. Let's see if we can deter that and see who's sitting there.
Well, let me stop you there, because that gets to the question that I always ask when I watch interviews, and that is, who is watching these cameras? And is the reality that police can respond to something that they're seeing in real time to prevent something bad from happening?
They can at times. This camera system was designed to have somebody watching it. Unfortunately, the economics of where we are at the moment, we don't have the manpower or the officers to do that. So it is on automatic record, basically at key locations. Officers at work, and when they have spare people, will go and monitor the cameras from the monitors, and if they see something, they can actively call out to an officer on the street and have them respond.
Right.
What has happened with some of these cameras is when there's a crime that has occurred, the officers and the detectives go back to those cameras and say, let's see what happened around this time and see who was in the area and see if they can either, number one, can be a witness, or maybe the victim passed that camera, or maybe the suspect in the crime is in those pictures. And it does help solve crimes that way also.
Right. So this gets back to my previous question, which is, where do we go from here? Because if this community meeting was cut short the other night and the chief walked out, this only is going to be solved if all parties sit down and talk this out and come up with a strategy that everybody believes in. So, I mean, are you reaching out to the police chief for another meeting? Do you see the police wanting to go back into a situation like that where they felt like they weren't getting their point across and had to leave? And how do we solve this? That's the bottom
This is
line.
where we can start having an honest conversation about the disproportionate arrest and targeting of black people in Sarasota. We know that the numbers speak for themselves. You can go right now into the Department of Law Enforcement website and pull up the statistics, which are going to show you that black people make up 6% of the population. However, they account disproportionately for 20% of arrests.
All right, Jeff, let me give you the last word because we only have a few seconds left here.
Okay.
Well, I think the difficulty is if they are being arrested, there is a crime being committed. Okay.
Because that's where you're looking. The white people are not being
No,
watched.
I
They're not
disagree-
being
I
monitored the
disagree with
same
that.
way, so they
I
are getting
disagree with
away
that.
with crimes because you are only looking at black people.
A crime is a crime, whether it's committed by a
You're
white
not
person or
catching
a black
those.
person.
But you're not catching the white crimes because you're not
I
looking
think
there.
we are, and
All
I
right.
think we're on
Your
two different.
cameras
We're
are
on
not
two
watching
different planes.
those neighborhoods,
Okay.
so you're not catching those.
We will pick this up in again for our final thoughts, and I think we have a few final thoughts in just a moment, but we'll be right back in a moment. Welcome back. Are surveillance cameras unfairly targeting the Newtown neighborhood or keeping people safe? And our guests join us with final thoughts. And Ruth, last night we were talking about another situation in another community, and we had a criminology expert from USF Sarasota Manatee on who said that Sarasota police went out and engaged them so they could understand what the statistics actually show in hopes of making a more fair community and society. So it does show that Sarasota, correct me if I'm wrong, is trying to get ahead of the game here and take on some of the issues that you seem to be concerned about.
That is a great step, pulling the numbers, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the numbers show, and I really hope that if they do show that they are disproportionate, which is what I'm thinking will happen, I do hope that the Sarasota Police Department will be willing to take steps to address some of those issues.
It seems to me it's a matter of trust. And is the problem here that some members of the community don't really trust what the police department is doing and the tactics that they're using? I mean, what's been your experience over a lot of years on this?
Well, I can't speak to the last 3 years that I've not been here. I've been able to watch on the sidelines, and I've seen this department progressively move towards community policing in Newtown. And I think the chief's recent outreach to the Newtown community has been very good from what I've been able to see and hear about. But overall, as a community resource officer, and I work strictly in the Janie Poe projects, the department really did reach out and try to help solve some of the community problems, but we can't solve all the community problems. We can't solve the disproportionate economic disadvantage that this community has had for years. And I think that leads to a lot of crime, because when you have drugs that give you money, free, easy money up front, and you don't give these kids an option for good employment or have an educational out of this type of situation, they are going to turn to where the easy money is at.
You know, it seems to me that is part of the problem and part of the solution, but not everyone appreciates that it's not just one thing or the other.
It isn't.
And I want to say to the chief, if she is out there, come on by, be part of this conversation. You reach the largest audience doing that, and maybe something good will come of it. I want to thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Before we
Thank
go,
you.
we want to share with our viewers what some people are saying about a story that we aired yesterday. Manatee's Planning Commission voted down a proposal for new Neal Homes development near the Braden Woods. Nearby residents considered the decision a win. They were able to collect 5,000 signatures against the proposal. Manatee County Commissioners will vote on the development in December. And here's what some of our viewers are saying. Roger Dresden writes, "At last, a sane decision from the planning board. Neal says that the intent is to be environmentally sensitive. Is this the same guy who trashed the mangroves in the bay to build more houses? Fight the good fight and keep this development on paper only." Nicole Fremont writes, "I hope we can come together and ultimately make a good decision on this. I hope they don't build." And Elise Kadatz writes, "It is about time. Growth is slowed." If you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. I want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Ruth Beltran is with the Suncoast Answer Coalition. Jeff Carr is a retired captain from the Sarasota Police Department.